Gang, this Google Hangout supposed to be starting. I am live streaming. I'll drop this in the Moodle. I was hoping this live stream would work. Right now, I don't think I'm having any luck. Let's see if I can join this Hangout. It's supposed to start recording right now. I don't know why it's not. Give me a second. Google Hangout. I'm going to try this another way. Supposed to be live streaming. Something's not working. Okay, folks, I'm going to minimize Google Hangout. I know I am recording. I will drop it in the Moodle. I'm going to bring up PowerPoint. I'm still going to look at standard costing, variance costing. Anyway, welcome back. My five in cost accounting, I guess Jessica, Seth, and Robert, Alexandra. Anyway, hope you're enjoying your time off. Hope you're getting caught up on all your classes. Hope you don't get sick. If you try to buy West Virginia moonshine, I think they're sold out. People are probably using it as disinfectant or staying home and using it for other purposes. So anyway, guys, I gave you a take-home test. I dropped it in the Moodle. Please bring that up and work the few problems I gave you. It's a take-home test. It's an open book test. I know you will not contact one another and try to work them together. I trust all of you. I think there's five of you. And also, try to get that email to me by Thursday. You can take it at your own pleasure. It's not time. Now, in the future, you all have free passes to Proctor Track. The college has paid for it. I have not got any tests set up on Proctor Track yet. But for your next test, I'll have to do something. I'll have to try to set it up or see if they'll let you all in the building to come in and take the test in class. We'll work out something. But anyway, stay healthy, stay safe, and try to do the best you can from home. I know this has messed up spring sports, track and tennis and baseball. A bunch of my accounting principal students are in baseball, 3 of them, and no baseball this spring. So we're living different. As far as the virus in West Virginia, they held out for a long time. No cases. Then it was 1. Then it was 2. Now here there's 12. There may be 1 case in Princeton, I'm not sure. There was 1 case at Bluefield College, but that person went home and they don't live anyway, the article said they did not live in Southwest Virginia. I'm assuming they don't live in that part of West Virginia. So anyway, students, I'll show you real quick that I am lecturing from my man cave at home. And anyhow, well, I don't look good on TV or video or whatever. But anyhow, my hair don't look brushed, but it has been. Anyway, I'd like to see you all. That's why I'd like to have Google Hangout, and I'd like us to communicate as normal. Maybe I can see what's wrong by Thursday and get that going. So please look at these videos day of, today, or tomorrow, before Thursday. Please work that exam before Thursday. All right? I'll get back to my PowerPoint. And as far as I remember, of course, I've been off 2 weeks just like you all have, and we had started the chapter on standard and variable analysis. And as far as I know, I didn't put much of it on the test, and hopefully I didn't put any. I tried to review that a minute ago, but could not get my Bluefield web page to come up. So anyway, class, and I hope my internet don't go out. It's got a habit of doing that here at home. But we are recording. We'll record for at least an hour, and we'll look at chapter 7 today through PowerPoint. And hopefully the voice is good, and so on. We've talked about this a little bit. Materials, labor, and overhead variances, and standard cost system. It is not like a process cost system or a job cost system. I consider those two the main forces which we're having a test on, but we do need to compare cost. Our country right now is in a state of emergency, even with groceries. I still don't get the thing about toilet paper. The hand sanitizer, I realize, people do buy it up. People get paranoid. My daughter bought 1,200 pounds of animal food. She has 10 chickens, 2 dogs, 5 cats, 2 those belly pigs. But 1,200 pounds of animal food is ridiculous. FEMA, the head, says don't stock up groceries for more than a week. There will be groceries. We don't have to panic. But out here in Bluefield, you can't find chicken unless you find one in somebody's yard and you want to go that route to have a chicken dinner. But anyhow, standard cost system. We use that to motivate, to do better than other companies, to plan, control, and for evaluation and decision making. Do we buy from this company? Do we buy cheaper? If we buy cheaper materials, we may have more scrap, and then we'd have a bad quantity variance. We'd use more. If we buy more than the standard, then we're paying higher than other companies are paying. So these are decisions we have to make. Setting standards, expected standards, practical standards, ideal and theoretical capacity. A lot of our companies right now are definitely not working at ideal or theoretical capacity. Our restaurants have closed down. Some of them are, take out or drive through. All right, but price variances on purchase versus usage. We'll have to look at those two different items. We'll look at it close when we get there. Direct labor. Standard costs are budgeted costs. Manufactures a single unit of product or performs a single service. Develop standards, materials, labor, and overhead quantities and prices. Overhead types and behavior, that's fixed or variable. All right, to minimize unit costs while achieving certain specs. Input, output. Materials used, types, quantity, quality, and price. We're going to have certain materials for specifications for product and a bill of materials. Now, here is simply the balance cost, quantity, and projected sales price. We take the standard materials cost equals units purchased times the quantity. Hopefully my pens will work today. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Luckily, today they're going to work. All right? But here is unit price times the quantity, and is equal to our materials cost, standard. Where do we get a standard? There used to be books in the library, standards, and there's a Moody's and Poor's, and you can find these standard costs for different industries, different factories, different businesses. Here we have product name, mountain bike unassembled. All right. We got components to build that bike. A rear wheel and a tire, blah, blah. It takes one front wheel. Yes. One rear wheel, no doubt. Front and rear brakes, 2 of them. Handlebar and stem, 1 of them. But it takes 16 bolts. It takes 12 clamps. It takes 2 pedals. So we're building a bike. Labor standards. The minimum wage in West Virginia, I guess, is 8 something an hour. The federal is 7 something. There's a lot of proposals that minimum wage go up to 15. That sounds great. That would help a lot of people, but that would hurt a lot of people. Businesses will cut back hours, staff that do more like Walmart, go with computer checkout. Some of the quick marts, they have little restaurants inside. They have computer ordering. Cuts out a waitress, don't it? But here we've got hours that we would be standard times the wage rate is our labor cost. That makes sense. And here, of course, what we're going to do to that bike, we're going to paint it, we're going to assemble it, we're going to oil it, we're going to test it, and we're going to package it. There's not a lot to package on a bike, but tied up, wrapped up some way. But standard time takes 3 hours to paint it, 5 hours to assemble it. For a bicycle, well, from scratch it might do that. All right. Overhead standards, variable and fixed. We'll always see that variable and fixed. And our estimated level of capacity, our estimated cost, and we have that old predetermined factory overhead again. For 1 unit of output of bike, standard materials, standard labor, variable overhead, fixed overhead. That's what it takes to make a product, any product. Here we have another sheet of some kind, the quantity required, and I guess the wage rate anywhere from $12 to $8 an hour, up to 20 maybe, to build that bike. A variance is the difference between actual cost and standard cost. That'd be the total variance. And with our little chart, that's what we come up with as a check figure. Our actual cost times our standard cost are different. Now, we looked at this in another format. I set that up, actual times actual, and standard times standard, and this is actual times actual, standard times standard. Excuse me, I got a sinus drainage cough. I don't have the C virus. Hope none of y'all do or come in contact with it or test positive for it ever. So here we have a price variance. Here we have actual times actual. I set that up for you this way. If I've got room here to squeeze it in, I did actual times actual. Standard price times actual quantity. And then standard times standard. That's the way I set it up. And if you go this route, actual times actual minus standard times standard, you get the total variance. But here you get the price variance. And here this would be price variance, and this would be a quantity variance. So these charts, these PowerPoints, go along with your book, explains it pretty well. And at the class end, I'll give you some assignments. We'll look at them on Thursday. We'll try to get set for this live streaming or Google Hangout. All right, the material price variance is the difference between actual price and standard price. That's simple, times quantity in both cases. Calculate materials price variance at point of purchase or in materials used. So this is when I say be careful, used or purchased. We may have to do both, we'll see. Material quantity variance is the difference between actual quantity and standard quantity. Times, of course, the standard price. Labor rate variance is your actual rate times your standard rate. Labor rate variance. But now the total rate, I'm sorry, that was price. The total labor rate variance, the total is the difference between these two, gives you the total variance. But now the rate variance is the difference between actual and standard. The quantity variance is actual quantity, standard quantity, to give you the quantity variance. That's labor efficiency variance, and I call it quantity variance, which is the same. But they've got LEV, LRV, LEV. R is rate, E is efficiency. All right, overhead variances, variable overhead, fixed overhead. Actual variance overhead, a total of various ledger accounts. Actual is when you have rent. You debit overhead and you credit rent payable or cash. You debit overhead, you credit accumulated depreciation. You debit overhead and you may credit some kind of indirect labor, wages payable. You debit overhead and you credit materials for the indirect materials. But now your fixed overhead is your actual fixed overhead, total of various ledger accounts. Actual variance, actual fixed. Now your standard is a predetermined variable overhead rate. And also you got a predetermined fixed overhead rate. We're familiar with those predetermined rates. For your variable overhead variance, you've got actual, budgeted, and applied. Variable overhead. You got actual. Budgeted, excuse me, is standard times actual. Standard price times actual quantity. Applied is standard price times standard quantity. So you see the difference between these two. Now here, the difference between these two gives you spending variance. The difference between these two gives you efficiency variance. Spending variance is caused by price differences. Managers have little control over prices, and could be caused by shrinkage or waste. Managers should be held accountable. Waste, they definitely should be held accountable. Shrinkage, they can avoid some of that too, I suppose, by ordering inventory at the right time, for one thing. Fixed overhead variances. Actual, budgeted, applied. So think of that as ABA actual, budget, applied. The difference between AB, again, is spending variance. The difference between BA is your volume variance. Factor overhead spending and volume variance. Calculate variance for each component caused by price differences. And factor overhead volume variance measures capacity utilization caused by producing at a level that differs from the capacity. Predetermined overhead rates, also called the non-controllable variance. So your volume variance might not be controllable. Just like in the days we're living in now, with Mr. C virus around, there's going to be a lot of volume variances for these factories that are not producing or shutting down or closing down, especially small business. And a lot of small businesses make items, manufacturing business. We're not going to apply this to retailing, restaurants. You can carry out or drive through, but most sit-down restaurants anymore are closed. Jessica, you're working at a place that no state will close. That's a grocery store. All right? And Safe, I don't know if you're getting any hours or not at Bluefield State. There's not going to be anybody around to do any maintenance or whatever work, I suppose, unless they get caught up on behind projects. Now, when we get these overhead variances, this is hard to separate sometimes. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 methods, approaches. I like the 2 myself. One variance approach, that is just actual overhead. Standard times standard, that's very easy. Total variance, that's all you got. One approach. Yeah, we'll look at that one, and we'll look at the 2 approach. The 2 approach is what we have with materials and labor. So here we have actual, budgeted, standard, ABS. Now, the difference between AB is budgeted variance. The difference between BS is volume variance. There's your standard, your budgeted, the difference is volume. Actual and budget, the difference is budgeted variance. In the one budget approach, we just had total variance. We had actual and standard times standard. That's pretty easy. No applied rates or anything. This one, budgeted, standard times standard, actual, no applied rates. But the 3 budget approach, we have actual and standard, but we have budgeted based on actual, BA, and we've got budgeted based on standard, BS. Still, your actual overhead and your standard overhead gives you that one variance approach. Budget overhead here and these other two gives you the two variance approach. But we're splitting budget overhead based on actual, based on standard. Now one gives you the spending, one gives you the efficiency, one gives you the volume. Now let's go back to number 2. We have budgeted and volume. Two budget approach, you have budget and volume. But here you have volume as in the two budget approach, but we cut the other budget down to spending. All right, let's go back to number 2. Budget variance. We're breaking that down into spending and efficiency. Favorable variances are credits if we were making a journal entry. Unfavorable are debits like losses. Inventories are recorded at standard cost. So we need to look at the entries to clear up these variances. Excuse me. I don't have the virus, but I'm sure most of you are 6 feet away from me. About 100% of you are 6 feet apart. I guess that's social standoff. Called social distance. Now folks, I want you to know that my cell number is 276-964-3431. If you don't understand what's going on, call me. Use that same telephone number, 276-964-3431, to text me. Use my email, plester@bluefieldState.edu, to email me. Please contact me when you need to. I need to get you through Costa County. All right? It's too bad that we may not even have graduation this year. We won't have the awards advanced. And a couple of you could have been up for some kind of award. Junior Accounting Award, who would that have went to? Or the 2 accounting awards, whatever they give. So we may not have those. A couple of you may have gotten some money. All these things change. We just have to change with them, okay? Just like I'm trying to use Google Hangout and I'm not good at it. Jessica, have you ever tried Google Hangout? If you have, or any of you, let me know. All right, we looked at credits and debits. Credits are favorable, like a gain. Debits are unfavorable, like a loss. Purchase of materials. Now, point of purchase method. Now, keep this in mind, point of purchase method. We still take our materials debit, standard cost, times actual quantity. That'll be our debit. Accounts payable is your, it's got to be your accounts payable times actual quantity. Anyway, it's the amount purchased. You pay for what you purchase. But here we would debit an unfavorable and credit a favorable, as you see here. Don't make sense till you look at it in a journal entry. Now, use of materials, look at this. Point of purchase, use of. Look at your work in process. We didn't have it here. Here we got work in process. standard, standard times standard. We've got materials used, standard price times actual quantity. Alright, now, let me move this back up wherever it came from. There. It's back. Okay. Actual quantity, actual quantity. Now here's what I wanted to move back. Can't get it to move. Labor is work in process, standard times standard. Wages payable is actual times actual. We've got to pay actual. The difference is unfavorable or favorable. As you see, labor rate variance, labor efficiency variance. Apply overhead. Work in process is standard times standard. Alright, your variable overhead is standard times standard. And your fixed overhead is standard times standard. You're in for variable overhead. You've got your efficiency variance, spending variance. Enter a debit or credit to bring the balance to zero. Here we've got variable overhead, actual and applied. This is when we debit work in process and a credit factory overhead applied. This is when we debit factory overhead and credit accumulated depreciation. Year-end treatment of fixed overhead, spending variance, volume variance. Variable overhead was spending variance and efficiency. Fixed overhead is spending variance and volume. And we've got actual and applied. So, if it's in material, these variances adjusted to cost of goods sold. An unfavorable variance as a debit balance, so you'd probably credit it and debit cost of goods sold. That would increase your cost of goods sold. A favorable variance, you would credit cost of goods sold and debit the unfavorable variance. The favorable variance, sorry. And then materials prorate, as we have before, between the three. Work in process, finished goods, cost of goods sold. But now for all other variances, unless it's in material. Now if it's material, you prorate. It's work in process, finished good, cost of goods sold. Conversion cost is, we know, labor and overhead. If I ask you a question, think about it. What is prime cost? I can hear one of you saying materials and labor. CC, as I many times call it. It's hard to write with the mouse. Alright, but variances, spending variance, overhead, efficiency variance, and volume variance. Alright, now here we have materials price, mix, and yield. Now this is totally new. We need to practice that come Thursday. And we will. Hope I get that hangout working so I can holler at you or talk to you. But here we have materials, quantity, and price. It gives you material price for actual price, actual quantity times actual price. Same thing over here. Materials, quantity, standard price. S materials, quantity, standard price. S materials, standard quantity, standard price. Numbers make more sense than these letters, okay? But through all that, we do get a labor rate variance, a mix variance, and a yield variance. Three new variants. A lot in this chapter, folks. But I'll deal with the basics most. Now, down here, M is mix, H is hours, and R is rate. Rate, hours, mix. Rate, hours, mix, rate, hours, mix, rate, hours, mix. Standard, standard, standard. Standard, actual, standard. Actual, actual, standard. Actual, actual, actual. So it goes right back to you. First is all your actual, and here is all your standard. Let's look at these items and see why, how, excuse me again, setting high standards to create favorable variances would be unethical. Setting overhead rates too low would be unethical or high. Produce inventory only to create a volume variance, excuse me, unethical. Not updating standards so that favorable variances are created, unethical. Using low quality materials or labor to create favorable variances, but you get low quality products, unethical. You know, low quality labor, I'm just going to guess that that's inexperienced. That's what the North used to think about the South, that we had low quality labor, and they come to find out we were better workers. Low quality materials is going to give you a quantity variance. You're going to use too many, or you're going to make low products, low quality products. All right, folks, we've went through the PowerPoints. Now it's time to go through some action with problems. So let me make sure I'm still videoing, and I am. And let me go to my little jumpy drive here. That little jump drive saved me. I brought home test banks. They tried to show me how to convert a test bank onto ProjectTrack. I'm either a slow learner or I had a bad teacher, or both. But I need some more education on how to convert, do ProjectTrack. Don't want to give you all take-home tests. Just 5 of you. At some point, the college might let us come in and use a room, as long as we can sit 6 feet apart. Put you in 2 rooms if I have to. We will work out something for another test. But right now, you've got a test on the docket that you can work at home. All right, let's look at some solutions for Chapter 7. I think I've assigned some of these before, and I don't know what I assigned. Excuse me just a minute till I get a pen. I don't like to lecture sitting down, but at home I've got an office chair and a table that I'm using for my book and my computer and my mouse and my pen and so on. But anyhow, the problems that I asked you to do, I have forgotten. I've got a bunch marked in my book, but I've used this book a couple of 3 times. So today I will mark them for S20. Now I'll know what problems I assign. But in chapter 7, I'm not worried about ethical writing. I want you to go straight to page 284. I'm not worried about developing standards, ethical writing. That's why our meet starts, I guess our meet starts on page 285. Now I don't have Almo here, so I can't show you a book or a problem. But like I say, on my jump drive, I have test banks, PowerPoints, and solutions. Hopefully that will be enough. I can use my notebook and so on. I hope I can use Google Hangout if I find out what I did wrong by Thursday. Hope you're getting your emails. Hope you're letting me know you're getting my emails. And like I say, contact me. Now my office hours on Tuesday, Thursdays, 8:30 to 9:30. Call me. I also have office hours from 1:45 to about 3. Call me. Tomorrow I'm supposed to have office hours from 12 to 4. Call me. And I hate this for VITA, for the old people, but they canceled VITA. Your grades, I'll find out how many returns you did, and I'll take recommendations on how to give you a grade. Okay, excuse me just a minute. Hello? No, not yet, honey. I'm teaching a class right now. Yeah, I'm teaching a class from my man cave on my computer. But I got out and walked. You're going to have to get out and walk, play cards with those boys. So, Ryan, when does he go for his physical? All right, yeah, bless his heart. You don't know when he'll be shipped out. Me too. No, honey, with this virus, we have no plans, Les. None. Yeah. We have no plans yet, so let me talk to you about it later, honey, okay? Bye-bye. Uh, anyway, sorry about that. That was my daughter-in-law. She wanted to tell me about my grandson. He's got accepted to the Navy, and I guess he has to go up and do physicals. But she also said the military shut down. Don't know what that means. If they're taking in or training recruits or what. But anyway, he had his heart set on the Navy, and the Navy found out, I guess through interviews or doctor's reports, that he had taken one of these pills when he was 6 or 7 years old for hyperactive, ADHD, whatever those letters are. And they were going to turn him down if he had still been taking those ADHD, whatever pills. They would not take it. And he had to prove from doctors that he was only on them for 6 months. And then the Navy cleared him with that. So he had his arm broke. The Navy found out about that. They had to know how long ago and had to have the doctor report. So at one time when I graduated from high school, you could sign up for the Navy. If you were passed your physical that day, you went into the Navy. They didn't do all these background checks. I don't think they even did a police check. They did a thorough background police check on my grandson. But anyway, that's the Navy for you. So, I don't know any of you ever thought about the military or not, but it's harder to get into now. I guess the Army is still the easiest to get into, but the Navy and Air Force are the highest, or hardest. All right, I want you to look at some material variances on page 285. We'll do exercise 2. All right, hopefully that was one that I assigned. I may not have, I don't know. But your actual materials is 13 cents. Your standard materials is 14 cents. Well, that's a penny, and that looks like it's favorable, don't it? 1 penny favorable. We can see that right off the bat. All right, standard quantity for goods production is 97,000. We used 115. That's bad. We know that's a variance. Quantity usage variance, that's a variance unfavorable of, 15,000, 16, 17,300. Okay, actual quantity used in November is 100. Now, look, we used 100. Now your variance there is still unfavorable. 97.9, 2,100 unfavorable. So are we looking at point of purchase? That would be 115,000. Or are we looking at usage? What don't make any sense at point of purchase. It only makes sense usage 100. And standard was 97.9. Calculate the total cost of purchases for November. The total cost of purchases, well, that's 115,000. Okay, times 13 cents. That's easy. Even I can do that. Now, compare the materials price variance based on quantity purchased. Okay. Again, it's going to be 1 penny unfavorable. Now, 1 penny favorable, 1 penny times 115,000. Calculate the material quantity variance. Okay. So let's look at the real figures on this little exercise. Hopefully some of you have worked these. I guess that's exercise 22. That's where we'll start problems with this chapter. Now I know we hadn't finished it because we hadn't had any of those mixed variances, yield variances, those 2, 3, 4 variances, what have you. Alright. If I slipped up and put 1 or 2 on the test, it's open book. You can do it. Okay. Total purchases times 13 cents. That costs us $14,950. All right. Really, that's just a penny difference. A penny times 115,000 is $1,150 favorable. Okay. Now, remember, folks, this is, I don't know if I can write on this or not. No, it's one that won't let me write for some reason. Thought it was giving me that choice. Some of my solutions will, some of them won't. So you'll have to try to follow with me as best you can. Now hopefully you do what I do and try to get off by yourself somewhere and watch this lecture and try to let it soak in. Alright, we know that's favorable because it's a penny cheaper per unit. Now the quantity variance, we're going to use 100 minus 97.9. Okay. So that's 2,100. 2,100. 14 cents times 100. And 14 cents That's 14 cents times standard, and that's 14 cents times actual, and that's going to give you, all right, I'd like to be able to write on this, but I can't, but 2,100 times 14 cents will give you $294, I hope. Now, journal entries for these variances, number 23, excuse me again, I wanted to point out to you that raw materials inventory, the materials price variance 600, and the accounts payable 1440. Now, I said a credit was favorable, 600. So let's go up here and see what we had on number 23. We've got actual price of 240. We've got standard price of 250. All right, so we're buying 10 cents cheaper. We got actual quantity 4,200. This should be 4,200 times 10 cents, 240. They got 420. That's what I would get. I would get 10 cents times 4,200. And then over here, 4,000 was standard, and we used 200 too much. 200 times 250 is 500, unfavorable. So we got a favorable 480, unfavorable of 500. Now the total variance should have been $80, and they should have showed that, but they have not. But here, the price variance will be based on the quantity of materials purchased, while the usage variance will be based on the quantity of materials used. So note the difference. And here, we're going back to a different amount of 600. Actual quantity is 6,000. Actual price 240. That's 10 cents. 10 cents times 6,000 is 600. That's favorable. 600 favorable. Materials price variance 600 favorable. Okay. And then usage, it goes into work in process. 500 unfavorable. We got work in process 10,000. We used materials of 10.5, and we got to put that unfavorable 500 variance in the materials usage variance. So that's a look at exercise 22 and 23. Now, I want you to work in good shape, number 24. I'll mark that spring 2000. I want to do a labor variance on number 26, spring 2000. Okay, I want to do the journal entries labor variance, number 27, spring 2000. I want you to try some of this missing information on number 29, spring 2000. All right, I want us to do some more labor, spring 2000, number 31. All right, and I want you to do an overhead variance number 34. Please try to work those. We'll work on overhead come Thursday. We will work on the mixed variances come Thursday. And if you have any questions, please text me or email me before Thursday. Please get me your test email. If you don't have internet, I don't know what you're doing. You're not even hearing me today. But you can go on campus. If you know of somebody in class that don't have internet, tell them they could go on campus somehow and use internet. Even if you have to sit out in your car at the building. I think McDonald's, take your computer or your cell phone to McDonald's and get on the internet, or Starbucks. You've got to find a way to get on the internet. Most of you have smartphones, you have computers, all right? So you've got to improvise with me and work with me, and we're going to end class today. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you watch this lecture before Thursday and get your test in. All right, I'm going to sign off now, and I'll be meeting with you again on Thursday, same time.